Yeah. Really.
Okay, so I'm okay now?
Yeah.
All right, welcome class. We are going to be on project 2, goal 8, which is memories. And I got my degree in family history at BYU in 2005, way before Family Search was ever invented. And what I love the most, what my passion was writing family history. So I took a class in writing family histories from Professor William Hartley, and that is my love. And so today I'm just in Happy Land, just sharing. Oops, darn it. Thank you, Dr. Robertson. Is that good? Oh, yeah. You can hear me. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to start out by Jerry, you have me my phone. It's either in my bag or it's in my purse. I wanted to read you something I read on Facebook. And if I can't find it, I won't read it. Whoops, darn it. I am a wanderer.
No, I'm just gonna, that's okay. I'm just gonna make it so they.
I'm always a wanderer. I wander here, wander there, and here's my notes. So, anyway, I was just looking on Facebook this morning and I just saw this, and I probably won't find it just because I want to. Yeah, I probably am not. But I'll just try to paraphrase it. But it just had this, it was an advertisement for a journal of, writing histories, your family history journal that you could give to a loved one. And I think it was written by a young person, and she said that she always wanted to ask her grandma questions about her life. And whenever they got together for Thanksgiving or some kind of reunion or something, she'd say, "Tell me about what it was like to grow up." And her grandma would start. And then she said, then somebody had to take the pie out of the oven, or somebody's phone rang, or they got interrupted, and it never got done. And so she bought this little journal thing that has prompts for doing your history. And she gave it to her grandma, and her grandma ended up having 4th stage cancer and died in 6 months, but she gave it to her in time. And her grandma wrote down her life history. And I just thought that, oh my goodness, that just goes along with our lesson today, because that's what I really love. But what we're going to start out talking about first is well, I'm going to have you go to go to Family Search and go to Family Tree. Oh, one thing I did not do is put up my own tree. Okay, so I'll do that at the same time you're doing it, and yours is probably already up. All right, so and I want you to go into your fan chart, and this is a way to find who has stories and who doesn't have stories. So I thought this was really clever. So I guess you could just do this with yourself as the center person, or pick a person. I'm just going to click on tree. And then I have my family is in a portrait view here. And I'm going to minimize it. I'm going to go into, and I'm going to click on fan chart. Okay, here's my fan chart. Oops, I already have this up. Okay, so you're going to go into options, and you're going to see all these different options over here, and you're going to click on stories. Now, when you click on stories, this shows you in yellow which stories are, maybe yours isn't yellow. Are yours other colors? It will show you what stories have been put into Family Search. Okay, is everybody with me?
Oh, it's different colors for different numbers.
If they have 5 to 9 stories, they're light yellow. And if they are dark yellow, they have 10 plus stories. And so I thought that was just really the coolest that you can find out where the stories are. Okay, now okay, did everybody do that assignment? We all on the same page there? Okay, moving on. Now, we're going, and this is a little trickier for me to for me to do. I had to actually use Google to do it. So, have any of you heard All the Stories? You heard of it? It's called All the Stories. Jerry, have you heard of it?
Not until.
It's the coolest thing. So I had a hard time bringing that up on Family Search. So, those of you that have the Family History Guide up, just click on All the Stories. But I think you can actually go into allthestories.com on Google, but this was a lot easier. So click on All the Stories. Is anybody having trouble with that?
That's under the family.
The Family History Guide, Project 2, Goal 8. And it'll be highlighted in blue and you'll click on that. Do you want me to go back? Oh, great. That's not, it worked on my computer at home.
Loading at the same time.
Oh, is that why?
Just hit refresh, or hit that X, right there, yeah.
I don't see the refresh button.
You turn the X turned into, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Has anybody else?
I can see where it is.
Okay, so when you go into Goal 8, Project 2, Goal 8A, go down and you're going to click on All the Stories. And it is the neatest site I ever saw. It's the greatest site, but it probably is going to be stubborn and not let me do it.
Maybe when you are okay.
Well, I just did it like an hour ago at my house and it came up perfectly well on my computer. Well, darn, it's not working and now I can't show it to you. And that was the coolest thing I was going to show today.
Go to Google and look for it.
Okay, let's see if we can Google it. All the Stories. And see if that comes up. But okay, Family History Guide, that's what where it's sending us to. Okay, but now I don't know how to find it on here. Because I did this morning. And I can't find it. It's really neat, and I wish that I could bring it up. Has anybody had any luck bringing it up?
I got it. Is there a way to plug it into the site?
So, and it has a circle with blue dots. It is the most amazing.
That is, if you just get on, Family History Guide and go to Goal 8A, you can see that little thing.
And it came up on your computer?
Just the circle, like what you have right now.
Okay. Okay.
That is.
You can look at the example over here, but I'm not having any luck bringing it up.
I tried to get on it directly and it says acceptable use policy violation. Website
Oh.
presents a security risk is not allowed under your organization's acceptable use policy.
Oh,
Really?
it's the firewall within this building.
Oh, darn. Well, I'm going to explain it. Okay, I'm just going to show you the picture of it. Can you see this picture over here?
Yeah.
It is the neatest site ever.
And if you put on the different shots, you can get information.
Yes. So what's so neat about it is there are gray dots and light blue dots and dark blue dots.
I'm kidding. That.
So when were you able to bring yours up?
Still checking.
Oh, it's still checking.
Yeah, it's going through.
So this is what I came up with. Am I talking too loud? This is what I came up with on my All the Stories. I have 291 stories on my Family Search. Okay, so the gray dot means there's no stories. The light blue dot means there's 1 or 2 stories. And the dark blue dot means there's 3 or more stories. So you click on those dots, you click on one dot and the story and you get on the left, and I can't show you because I can't demonstrate it, but
It does the same thing on the fan chart, on the search.
yeah, but this has a lot more options. Like on the left side of the page, it lists all the stories and memories. You got it?
Yeah,
I-
except I really have trouble telling the difference between the dark blue and the light.
Okay, so the light,
It's
the
really.
light blue is just one or two stories.
It,
Oh, so they're so close together.
The
Okay,
color.
Color, okay, got it. So on the left side, and you'll see this, Brother Moody, it's gonna have this big, long
it
list.
does.
And you can click synchronize and it'll show you how many stories you have, and it's gonna have this big, long list of stories. But,
So click on synchronize.
okay, you can click on synchronize and it'll show you how many stories you have. But if you, let's say you click on a dark blue dot,
Okay, I've already.
it will show you the vital information on that ancestry and all the stories that are under that ancestor. And you click on one of those stories and the story just comes up right there on all the stories app. I'm wondering if you went into the app store and just did all the stories app. Anyway, so that story comes up, and it also, you can do view my relationship and you can view it on Family Search. And I played around with this for 2 hours because it's my new toy now. And I just love it.
Generated by, is it the same story that's generated by the computer though? We don't.
I think someone has
No, these are stories that people, or could be that, but it's
You know where
stories
it says
people
the-
have put
The
in.
computer generates based
Oh,
on,
yeah.
you know, so-and-so was born and this
Right, no,
year
these
and
are
so-and-so.
actual stories that people have submitted to memories,
Okay.
so.
Anyway.
Anyway.
They go over to family
If you
search.
work part in the Illinois Party, Arkansas. Archive.
It could be stories that people just written on Microsoft Word or Pages or whatever, and they just,
Yeah, but those are on family search too.
right. So those stories all come up, they all came up on mine,
Yeah, so on all the stories, they go over and find what's on family search and bring those over.
I guess. It's hooked into Family Search, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really liked it. Okay, let's go back. That didn't work out very well. Okay, we're on B. Okay, so I thought it was interesting that they pointed out that there are 2 ways to get stories in our
Pretty interesting.
family tree. Do you like that site? All the
Yeah,
stories?
it's really,
I love it.
and it actually gives me hints, just what I've read already
Yeah.
for other stuff that doesn't necessarily show up.
So it's a great tool. It's too bad that it's not coming up. But so anyway, there are 2 ways that we have stories, put stories into our family search memories. And one is stories that are already there in the gallery. And we can upload those to the gallery. And then the other one is to create our own life stories. And there's 2 ways of doing that. And one is you create a story and could put in pictures. And we're going to walk through those. Another one is you write a story and like on your word processor program on your computer, and then you upload that into Family Search Memories. Okay, so I'm going to go, so I played around with it a little bit this morning. So another really neat thing about all the stories app is it has the amount of time it takes to read that story. It'll say 1 minute, takes 1 minute to read that story, or 6 minutes, takes 6 minutes. And I'm sure when my grandkids, if they go into my grandma's site and it says 28 minutes, they're gonna say, not today, too long, but her stories are all, long. So, so this is my grandmother, Sarah. We named our daughter after her. And our daughter really hates her name. She says, how would you like to go to school and have 6 Sarahs in your class? So, she has a ton. So I did this one last night, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This is her. Can everybody see? All right, she does have a ton of histories. She's got newspaper articles and, oh my goodness, it goes on and on and on. But so you can go into memory, click on the memory tab, add memories, and then add photo or document, and then you can select a history from gallery. And I don't know, are you really good at gallery? Because when I used to bring up gallery, I would get like 300 pictures and everything from some relative I never knew. Now my gallery just seems to be my stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But
So look at the arrange pull down on the right.
arrange,
See what's in there.
okay, newest data and so forth.
Yeah, I can tell you the difference between seeing only your stuff and seeing everybody. If you close that pop-up there and go up to the top line in memories.
Okay, and go into that gallery.
No, that's gonna be just your gallery.
Okay, that is my gallery. Okay, back.
Go back to the memories at the top and go to find down the bottom. And then after you hit search, you
Oh.
can see everything.
Okay,
Just leave it blank and do search.
Yeah, try and leave it blank.
oh, just leave it blank.
No, but you have to put something in there.
Oh, okay.
Put like a question, what is a question mark?
That's what it's a lot of time.
That's the question.
So I'm gonna put in my grandmother's name. See what happens. Aha, and so here's some things that I've never seen before. So, but they're probably really under her, but anyway, this is one way to add to your memories, okay? So I'm gonna go back to grandma here, well,
So if you put something in Sarah Hatch's, it's a picture from somewhere else. And somebody else is like your sister goes in on family search and looks at her memories under Sarah Hatch. Is that picture there for your sister to see and you put it in?
if you add it in as a public, put it as a public, she should be able to see it because Sarah's dead. Now, if it was my own kids, she wouldn't be able to see it. Tell me if I'm wrong, anybody that knows more than I do. But one thing I did notice is you can't change the title on a memory. Okay, let's go into my grandma and grandpa's picture here. You can't change the title, but I can tag. I could tag people to
If
the,
you added it, can you change it?
no, if you added the document, picture, photo, you can change the title or add the title. But if somebody else did, you can't change the title, you can't do much, you can't delete it, but you can,
Write to that person.
you can't add a tag to it. What?
You could write to that person, you find out who did it and then email them.
And you can email them and say, oh, that's true. Good point. And
You can also comment.
oh, and you can make comments. Okay, so is that here? Okay, so here's a comment. So that's good. You can do all that. And then while we're on this subject, and this is way down the road today, but there's certain things that if you post a picture, a photo, they have Family Search has rules like it can't have like Gap on a hat or BYU, I don't know, can't have any company. It can't be vulgar, can't be anybody kissing. It has to be modest clothing, or they won't process it.
Can't have a bow and arrow or any weapons.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, I wonder about, I have a really cute picture of my grandson with a cap gun. I don't know if they would allow. So that's kind of good to know. So finding stories. So are there any questions on B, finding stories? And I've gone into all these documents and they're excellent. And I would highly recommend people reading these articles because they're just great. They're great. They teach us so much.
That one has a good time. Gets my-
Yeah. Yeah, they're just, all these articles are just wonderful. And 4 family stories you must save for your children. Anyway, they just have a whole bunch of these and they're really good. So, I'm going to move on here if there's no questions. We're going to go on to C, and that is we're going to make our own life stories. So like I mentioned a minute ago, you can go on Family Search and create a story kind of on the spur of the moment and add pictures, or you can take, like I'm trying to do with my mom and dad's history. Oh, yes, could you pass around? You guys have already seen my mom's history. No, the purple, but the burgundy. Pass that around. So I have not, this is not on Family Search because I'm trying to add my dad to it. It's taken me years and I get into this writer's block when I don't work on it for months and months. I was going to get it done during the pandemic, but I didn't. And so it's those kind of stories that you're putting on your computer word processor and you're going to upload. So there's 2 ways to do that. There's probably more than 2. All right, so I'm going to go into Family Search again and look, see, I'm going to look at my dad. Here's my dad, Jack Powell. So last night I put this in here. This is my son's graduation from high school. I don't know why it's not showing that whole picture there. Oh, there it is. So I tagged everybody on there. There's Stan's dad, my husband's dad. There's my son graduating. There's my mom. There's my dad. And then you can add a story to it. So I added a story to it. Can you see my story down there? Ah, why can't you see the bottom? This is in the way, but anyway, I just said it's a special time when our children graduated because my father-in-law would drive all the way down from Montana and my parents would drive up from Vernal. And we'd have them for a couple days and we'd feed them, and it was always special until they died. And then my last few children, I think my last 3 children never had grandparents come. They had one, but because they'd all passed away. So that was sad. So that's kind of a little history you can do. Now you can, okay, click, go into your ancestor here, click on add memories, and you look on write a story. So you can write a story. This is kind of a write it that day kind of thing. So you're going to title it. You're going to tell the story. You're going to put the place and the date. And I can't get down to the bottom, but then you're going to submit. So that's a quick way of doing stories. And I think that young people would be, they like doing, that's why they like Instagram or Snapchat or these things, because it's just a short little blurb, short. And that's what kids like. And so all these articles that I read about writing your family history, one thing that one person that did on the article, she said, if you have a great big fat book, your grandkids are less likely to read that than if you have little snippets. You're constantly sending them snippets. Oops, I don't know how many of you know Christy Bloomer. She and her husband Bob were the directors of the Family Search Center. And just a few months ago they were released, but so every day on Facebook she does a little short thing on her family history, and she knows her granddaughters will read it and so forth. And so, like I heard somebody say the other day, Family Search is like Facebook for the dead. So you can tag people just like Facebook. So
Then you can share your stories. Also.
and like share them on social media.
Well, share them by email or whatever, so.
Oh, you can share them on an email, yeah.
So if you just take one of your stories, open one of your stories that you were just at.
Okay, that we were just looking at, okay, I probably wrote this obituary. All right, so
See in the top right.
this here, so I could save it on an email, Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, WhatsApp, copy it. So that's really good to know. In fact, I sent my kids the other day, I sent them a picture of my great grandfather who was born in England. Okay, I'm just gonna go to him. And when I shared it on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, it came up as a family search link. So they couldn't just like look at the picture, they click on it and it went to family search. And hopefully all my kids have a family search account.
No, actually, when you share it like that, they do not have to have an account.
Oh, they don't?
Straight to the story.
Thank you.
There's no sign in. You can send it to somebody who never heard of family search.
Okay, that is really nice to know. I wonder, he's got to be here. Okay, his name is George Gray, lived in England. So here's his memories, and I found this coolest picture of his wedding. And here he is with his wife. So, you know, the histories, can everybody see it?
So is he sitting on a throne and she's sitting on a?
I don't know. I wish I could bring this up where you could see it better.
You can go to the more in the top right, top bottom, I mean, the bottom right. See where it says more with 3 dots? Way down,
Down
bottom,
in that black thing that's in your way. Yeah, that.
right there. And hit hide floating meeting control.
Right.
Okay, all right. So now oops.
That's good.
So I just thought this picture was so cool. I sent it to my kids but then it took them immediately into the family search. But, so I decided to sneak around the system and send it to them on my phone. And then I took this picture and I saved it to my camera roll on my phone. And now I can send it to anybody I want, and it doesn't go to family search. It's just the picture. But, as I was saying before, writing our family histories it is just, I guess I didn't say this, but I'm saying it now. It's one of the most important things I think we can do in our lives is write these family histories. And maybe we don't know very much about our great grandparents or our great great grandparents, but we can make a little history just on their dates and where they live, where they're married. We can make a little tiny story like what is it called? Annan Toffel story that you can get off Ancestry or Legacy. I'm not on Legacy. But anyway, just fleshing these stories out is so important because it's what we can pass on to our descendants. It's just wonderful.
Can you share one?
Yes.
If you go back to family search.
Oops.
And, well, let's see, gotta go up, okay, go up to search.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the search, drop down menu, go to books.
Okay.
This is what David and I do in our mission.
Oh, this is your
This is
mission.
our mission, and the digital library. I told them last week, I said, over 500,000. I said, I bet there's 1 billion books in there now. But in that space, type in your ancestor's name.
Okay, well, I actually did send this book you're passing around here.
You said,
I
yeah,
sent-
see if it's in there.
I sent that in to Family Search, so I'm gonna put in
See if
Crystal
it's in there.
Martinson.
And then, well, just click outside because they've covered the search button. Very nice. And so as good as the character reader on the computer is.
Okay, there it is. There's the book you're looking at right there.
And then it's control, it gives you like little snippets, keep going up. Of the sentence, oh, you know, past one too fast. They're right there. Brigham University, humble beginning, very right. And yeah, it'll give you a little snippet of what's in there.
Oh,
And so
perfect.
if you look up, like a farther back ancestry, what I found one time, I was looking at my grandfather and another family in the same town as my grandfather
they had written a book of their family, and my grandpa was in their stories. And it's a story I'd never heard,
Oh,
because it's a story of him helping the neighbors.
that's
He didn't write
great.
it down, he didn't, go around Chesapeake.
And so that book came up on this site.
That came up on there.
Great.
His name was in their book.
That's really neat.
Tell us again how you got there. Search, family search, just on the tab, the search tab way up. Yeah, no, way up, no, she's right, she's on it.
Okay, so search
Books.
books.
And anything that's in the church's digital library,
Jerry, grab me my water bottle.
you can find.
No servants, I can't move.
If you type in a name and it's not there, it doesn't mean it's not there.
Is it in there?
It
Oh,
means the
thank you.
computer, it was a really bad copy, the computer couldn't read it, so.
So,
Another thing, when you typed in her name just now, if you notice, it said there were 80,000 hits.
Yeah.
That's because it found every Crystal and every Martinson.
Yeah.
So if you want just Crystal Martinson, you put them in quotation.
oh, I didn't know that. So that's a better search.
That's a much.
And that will
Okay.
keep those two names always together. But
Oh,
then you have to do it with their maiden name, the married name, with just their name, with their name they went by.
so you can search by a lot of different ways. There's different methods. Wow. Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Sister Mary. What's that?
Find some stories you didn't know.
That's a good way to find those stories. So, I just want to tell you a story about George, and I don't know if it's in here. 'Cause I guess I need to write it. So I'm just gonna tell you a quick story just for fun. So George and Priscilla, the missionaries came to them in England, and they lived in the same area in Yorkshire, England. And the missionaries came to her family, and the missionaries came to his family. And they were converted, and they were young people. And then they started dating, and they fell in love with each other, and they had the church together. And so when she was converted, the missionaries came to her home, and they had bread. Her mother always made homemade bread. And they would butter the bread and then slice it and butter it and then slice it. And the missionaries thought this was really hilarious. And so their plan was George and Priscilla, and that's going back to that picture right here. Their plan was to get on a ship and come to America and be sealed in the, well, there wasn't a temple then, so it was the sealing house in Salt Lake, endowment house. They were going to be sealed together, so that was their plan. But he ended up getting sick, so she went on a ship with her mother on a different ship, and then he came later on a different ship. And while she was on the ship, the very missionaries who had been in her home were drunk and were making fun of them the way they cut their bread. And her mother was just appalled, and she was just appalled. And so when she got to Salt Lake, she decided she didn't want to be married in the endowment house. And so they were married civilly. And that's the picture you're looking at here. And they were married by a judge. I actually just looked it up somewhere and I found their marriage certificate. I don't even know if it's here, but I found their certificate married by this judge, but it's probably not in this. I need to find it. And then they moved to Juab, and they had like 11 children. I don't even know where Juab is. I think it's right by Nephi.
It's,
Is that Juab?
yeah, Jewett County.
Juab County. So they moved down there, and they had 6 of their children died, and they had this disease was going around, and the bishop, the people in the ward, whatever, they didn't come over and help them, and they had to bury their children. They just wrap them in blankets and bury them. Then another one died because of this disease, and so she became really bitter toward the church when the bishop wouldn't come over and help them. And you know the stories. We've all had the stories, right? And so they ended up moving down to Vernal, Utah, and he bought a mine. So at home, I have a Doctrine and Covenants it was printed in 1886 in England. And that's where Priscilla wrote down the names of all her children and when they were born and when they died. And she had about 5 that lived. And she wrote down everybody, just like a Bible, but she wrote them in the Doctrine and Covenants. And I have it at my home. It's just falling apart. And I don't dare bring it out because the page, it's so old. It doesn't have a cover on it. And it's original. And so I keep it in a box, acid-free box in my house. And so my grandma wasn't mentioned in the Doctrine and Covenants. She didn't write her name down. And my grandma was the only one that wasn't blessed. And all the others were blessed. They had them blessed at church, and then they would die. And so my grandmother was very sad. And so Priscilla ended up dying in California as a agnostic. He didn't even believe in God. And George, he still believed the Mormon church was true, clear to the day he died. But he wasn't active, and he loved Priscilla. But my grandma was never baptized. And then, I'm probably going to cry. And then 1975, when I married my husband, that was the year my dad baptized her. And she was very old, and she died right after that. And that was her desire. She wanted to be a Mormon. And she just felt sad that she was never blessed in the church. But
Mr. Hinckley.
it was a great story.
You know, you can write that story right on that picture.
I know, and I could write that whole thing out. It's just amazing. Here is a letter that my grandma wrote to his granddaughter. And he said, some say Mormonism is a delusion. Well, all I can say, it is a happy delusion. I never was more happy in my life than I faithfully was a worker in the church. And my advice to you is stay with it. I could not tell you really what I am. I guess the name infidel would come near the truth, but I have no regard for the other sex, whatever. So I feel so close to them.
What kind of a worker was he?
I don't know, but I think they were active in Juab. But when they got to Vernal, they dropped out of the church. So sad story. Okay. So I made some handouts for you. Emily, can you give everyone, you're all going to take an hour this week and start your life history. So everybody gets one, and I'm glad there are not 20 people here because I might not have had enough. But okay, I'm going to give you some tips here. All right. What if you say to yourself, and I know no one in this room is going to say this. What if you say to yourself, I'm not a writer and nobody cares about my life. And I know some details about my grandparents, but I'm not the one to write them. Yeah. So what if you're the only one on this earth that knows that detail? You have to be the one to write that story, right? Because you're the one that knows it. Now, why is it, can't even find my notes. Why is it kind of a challenge when most people, including those of us in this room, except for Elder Robinson, are in our 50s and 60s, and we finally decide to get interested in family history? And so why is that kind of a problem as far as writing family stories?
Because some of the facts are a little fuzzy.
Okay. And what about our moms and dads? They're not here anymore. Okay, who has moms and dads on this earth? And how are we going to ask them questions? But Elder Robertson, it's not too late for him. He can ask. But when we're in our 50s and 60s, if we do have a living parent, their memories might be a little fuzzy. Emily,
And the family told stories, like my husband's dad was always telling stories about the family. And that his, that he grew up in and the families that had passed on and stuff, and one, a couple of Richard's sisters know all of them. They were just really interested and kept them in the brain, and so we might have siblings that would still know some stories that we don't remember. I don't know.
so that's true. Maybe someone else in our family has those memories. And we used to go on these long trips with Stan's dad, and we would he would talk the whole way. And we're like, oh, and we'd say, we've heard that story like 10 times, Grandpa. But we never recorded him. Now we have no
But
history.
you really know them well.
Well, I don't. My husband says, yeah, I know those stories. We never wrote them down. It's
But
our loss.
There are some records you could get the history from. For example, my father was in the army in 1945. 44 and 45, I think. So I can request his military records. I know for a fact, during the war, he was stationed in Greenland. But other than that, I don't.
So you could get that history of get a lot of information.
We got a
Yeah.
tattoo when he was in the army, and as I was a young child, I asked him about it, and he told me, don't ever get a tattoo, and I never have.
So it made an impression on you.
Yeah.
What I did is I interviewed my mother while she's still living, and my father was deceased. And so she was able to give me a lot of information on, she told her life story. I have a couple of CDs with her story. She was able to give me a lot of my dad's, but I thought after that it was important. And I have 7 siblings, and I have all their life stories except for 2. And then I have my own life story, but I have 2, and I'm in the process of going to Grand Junction to record the life story of my sister this weekend, coming up.
Great.
Okay, and the one thing that I think is the greatest thing of all is it's been such a pain because I recorded my mother, and all that had to be, we had to go through that recording and then type it all out. And so I am now met with Keith, and they have a Google program now where you can actually record into the computer, and when you're recording into the computer, it types it. And then all you
That's
have to do
handy.
is, yes, and all you have to do is just go in and correct the errors. And so that's why I'm here today, is to work on that. And then they have another thing that is just super neat, where it can make up a story about your family, and you give them some facts, about your life or something, one event that happened. And you give them the details of the event, and then they make up a story about that event. And it is so fun.
That would be a fun way to do it.
Yeah.
And there's so many programs and apps and
Yes.
ways to write our life histories. I just talked to my BYU roommate yesterday, and she did Storyworth, and I think it's really expensive. But she has to write a story every week for a year, and then they print out the big hard, this book, this Burgundy book. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? How I did it was, my mom was dying of cancer, and I had a tape recorder, just a regular tape recorder with cassette tapes. And I came up with 8 tapes that were really long. I think there were 60 minutes apiece. And she was just lying in bed, sick in bed, and she just told story after story. And then it took me a long time to transcribe. But,
And by the
okay,
way, they do have some programs, because when I was here, we went ahead on the storytelling thing, and Rose, that works in here on the Family History Center.
yes, Rose Nyman.
Yes, and Rose actually had me tell a quick story of, experience I had, and it was free. You're only allowed 3 pictures on the software that without being charged. But it's a free download, and so I gave them I took 2 minutes and told the story about myself, and it came out with several pages of a story about this.
Oh,
It's amazing what they can do.
that's it. Yeah, there's so many things now. I have one more question along that line. why could it be writing our family histories? Hello, Brother Cheney. Writing our family histories, how could that be beneficial to a grandchild or a nephew or a niece that are from 18 to 30? How could writing those stories be beneficial to them?
I've been told before to make sure you put the stories that your life wasn't all roses, you know, oh, I did this, it was so great, and I did this, I went to school, I had this great job, and it was wonderful family.
It's like a Facebook
Everybody else
post.
is thinking, oh, man.
Yeah,
What's wrong with me? So,
right.
just to make sure you put, includes your hard times,
Yeah.
really.
And that's exactly what I was getting at. Don't just put, you know, rainbows and sunshine, because our lives are not rainbows and sunshine. Okay, here's some questions for you. What if your ancestor was a polygamist?
They are.
What if your ancestor owned slaves? What if your ancestor spent time in prison for something that he or she did wrong? What if your ancestor was a slave? What if your ancestor is not married to his wife? Or the wife is not married to us? Okay. Should you ignore these stories in your history? Okay. I just thought that was excellent. You can't sweep those details under the rug, because that's, and if you, let's say you're a teenager, young person, 25-year-old, whatever, and you're struggling, really struggling, and you read that family history and you realize your grandma was struggling, or your grandpa, and you're like, well, they had a hard time getting a job during the Depression or whatever. Well, maybe I'm not so bad, you know, and I can keep going in life. This is important. Okay, now I'm going to show you something I did last night, which is not very good. I'm going to have to delete it and start all over again. So there's one way you can add a memory, is to add an audio. Do you see that down here? We're going to click on memories, then add an audio. So this is what I did last night. And I sound horrible. So, but it's just, I was just experimenting. Let's see if this works. Oh, I did it on my phone. Well, okay, is there any way to turn on sound?
Put your microphone right by the computer's microphone.
Okay, microphone.
So we go late and have to drive to Parties Canyon and drive to Vernal in the dark. And I remember that being very scary, going through the canyons in the dark. And we would get to Grandma Martinson's very late at night. And she'd always leave the porch light on and the door unlocked. We'd go in. I remember when they lived, she and my grandpa George lived, I think it was 500 West or 500 South. And they had round stairs going up into the house. And when you got into the house, there was a big old piano with a piano bench, a wooden piano bench that would turn, and I'd sit on it and just turn and turn.
The
and get
stool
dizzy.
that spins.
And
That's why I'm going to redo it.
I remember when Grandma and Grandpa Martinson lived in the White House around the corner. And she always had something to eat, like she'd have a beef roast. And she'd
Okay,
cut
that's good. That gives you an idea of what you can do. So what I did was I just went on to my family search app on my phone. Then I went on to a specific ancestor, clicked on memories, clicked on audio, and then it's like record, click record, and then I just went, well, I remember going to my grandma's house, and well, this is really digging the cobwebs out, because I was like 3 when we used to drive to Vernal in the dark, and I'd get on the floor of the car because we didn't have car seats, and I get on the floor of the car and I was so scared of driving through the canyon in the dark. But anyway, I'm gonna redo, I think what I'm gonna do is write it down and then just read it. Then I'm not like halting and sounding bad. But anyway, those are just ideas. We're about out of time. One of the documents that we looked at said, if you're having a writer's block, you just can't get started. They said, just take an hour and do like a chronological timeline. Okay, so you're going to write down, let's say you're going to do this for your dad or yourself. So you're going to write down birth, skip a space, going to school, skip a space, moving, skip a space, changing schools, skip a space, learning religious milestones, skip a space, and so forth, and learning graduating from high school, getting married, where you first lived. And then later you can add meat to the bones and fill it out and make it a more readable story. So any other comments before we?
Funny when I wrote,
Sure.
I didn't even know this, she knew my grandma. I just said I grew up just down the road from grandma, out on West Mountain. I remember her house at wash day. She had the old wringer washer. So I just wrote about, filling the washer, going through the wringer, draining the washer, putting everything away, scrubbing the floor, everything. Because just before she moved off the farm, her kids gave her a washer and dryer and did the plumbing and electrical to install them. One day soon after they were installed, Grandma and I were sitting in her front room. And she was probably working on a crochet project. She was always doing something. And she broke into a big grin and laughed. And I said, Grandma, what's wrong? And she said, I'm doing my laundry. I just laughed.
Oh, I love that story because those washing machines, there were no electricity, right? It was all just hand stuff. Oh, was there electric? Because my grandma had one of those, but I was way before I was born, but it was when they did the laundry, it was like Monday was laundry and then I know my mom would take all of her clothes. Of course, she had a electric washer and dryer and all that, but she'd take all of her clothes and sprinkle them with this water and then put them in this giant plastic bag. And then the next day she would iron them and she would iron for 6 hours. And then she would give me
So you have this story in your book?
don't. And see, I could do that. She would give me the pillowcase and the handkerchiefs because I was 5 years old and I.
Okay, can I make an announcement?
Yes,
Right along with
please,
your
yes,
lesson?
yeah.
I want to show, I don't know if you've all heard yet, but Family Search just joined with storied.com to create little books like this. And members of the church get a free account. And I want to show you how to get that free account real quick because it just came out. So if you go, are you on Family Search still here? Yeah, there you are. If you go to the home page of Family Search here, and you scroll down to the very bottom of the home page, you're going to see this Solutions Gallery. You go to Solutions Gallery, and you'll see Storied right there. You see that? Storied.com, like past tense of story. You click on that, and it will give you the option here to join for free. So you click on join for free, and it's going to take you to storied.com, and it tells you that it's going to want to look at your Family Search tree and bring it in. So it's asking for your permission to know your basic Family Search profile and to access and save data about your living and deceased ancestors. So when you hit accept to that, then that's going to take you to a page that is the actual storied page. And it's going to, oh, I'm sorry, this is your actual.
You just joined story.
You just joined Storied, Christine. I forgot you're the one signed in. So now
Yes, it does.
What it's gonna tell you is that you had no plan, but it's gonna change it to a storied Latter-day Saint plan. So only Latter-day Saints get this free, full-blown account.
What does it normally cost, you know?
It's-
$6.95 a month. How much? $6.95 a month.
So if you've already got a plan, sounds like you do, then when you do this through that method I just showed you, it will change your current account to a storied Latter-day Saint account. And it'll stop charging you the monthly fee. And the great thing about Storied is, I'm not gonna do this for you, but if you want to, you can accept it. Just do it. Okay, so it's gonna link your family search and your Storied accounts here. And it gives you the option to keep your current membership and keep paying, or to start your free membership, so you decide. So, I don't know what went wrong here. Maybe it's because you didn't already have an account, but anyway, what is so great about Storied is that you come across, you have a thought, and this is by far my favorite way to view this. Because I had a thought yesterday while I was swimming. I suddenly had a thought, I need to tell the story about the parachute cutting cord knife that I carried in my flight suit every flight. And I said, I need to tell that story. So I went home and I wrote it down in 10 minutes, and it's on story.com. And I can do that every day, just write a quick story on story.com. And then when I'm ready, I can link the stories that are all have a common theme, like my military stories, link them all and print a book like this. Now, the book you do have to pay for. But
Does it show you the options for the book on here?
yes, it does. Let me get into my account and I'll show you real quick. Well, we're out of time though, aren't we? Sorry.
That happened, just have a story popping in. I woke up this morning with a story in my mind about one day I was teaching middle school, and something really, really funny happened. And I relisted the whole story in my mind, and then I thought, I gotta write it down.
Yeah, and you can write it down in 5 minutes with this way. So
About story is it's usable with live people and sharing with live. When I started it, I wanted to get all my cousins together where we can all share stories about grandpa or about our aunts and uncles and things. Because live people can be in story. And you know, you can't necessarily do that all the time in family story, although they're working on it. But yeah, when I first started a couple of years ago, that's what story was about. So now this is exciting.
yeah. So this is anyway, it's a whole another class, but get your free account, because then when that story pops in your mind in the morning, you can go write it and it's done. Thank you, Sister Hinckley. That was great class. I'm going to where did
So I better do the tool tracker to the tracker.
oh yeah. Let me stop the recording here.
Yeah, can I make a comment while you're waiting there?